Still me.
Is Mary coming?
No.
And you can't raise them.
We're just waiting on
Just
Alton.
doesn't kick them. They wouldn't enjoy the music.
You okay? He is. It's setting with the here in a couple minutes. Where Melissa, she'll be here soon.
What's the deal?
And I don't know about Mr. Gary.
I think maybe so.
Are you gonna sit down there? No, I was just gonna sign it. Oh, okay. You can if you want, but I understand why you wanna be down here.
Yeah, it must have been a long time. Yeah. I've seen you around, but I first time we were actually.
I mean, IFAB should be pretty dry. I explained it to Thomas Henry. I'm gonna explain it in the basic way.
Oh, much better.
Maybe the one asked me a question.
Yeah.
And we'll just be good.
Yeah. Off cam.
I mean, if we don't do it now, we're just gonna, that's gonna,
No, that's something we don't have. I'm gonna keep singing it to you too. We're gonna be like, what the heck?
I'll be singing it by the time I leave.
Maybe I'll come
He
up with
said
some
he
more
would be here in a
lyrics,
couple
like the
minutes,
dancing
so
part.
he should be pulling in any minute, so.
Singing what?
I know.
Life's been good to me so far. It was on my
Joe Walsh.
playlist.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
some Joe Walsh. I like him whenever the James game.
Oh,
The James game?
no.
I don't know who that is
Have you gotten
either.
a letter, by the way?
You've heard some songs.
Has he
I'm
gotten
sure
a
I've
letter?
heard it. I'll look it up.
Have you gotten a letter?
I'll look it up. James Dean, I'll look it up.
Yeah, that's old. That was before he was with the Eagles.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was old. That was before I was born.
Cody Jones.
Me too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're actually pretty.
Which that's a long time. A long time ago.
Whatever, stop. You act like you're old.
I am.
It's nice.
I woke up this morning and had a dead arm. And it hurt.
Did you kick him out?
No. No, but like lifting like there,
Oh, my God.
I don't,
That's funny.
I guess I slept wrong.
You are stood up. You are.
She's on it this
a little
morning.
frisky this
She ate
morning.
her Cheerios.
Yeah.
So if Alvin comes, we will. Yes, you do right now.
I just heard the word.
Cause I know you need to leave. Okay. Hey, Alton, I have an order that I need you to sign, so don't leave. Okay.
Get my text from,
Yes, sir, but I was setting up, so.
that's okay,
Yes.
make sure you know that he's not. Morning.
Hey.
Remember a copy of those,
I don't need
I
those.
needed, okay,
Yes, sir.
all right. And I just sign in,
Are you gonna speak at public forum?
I guess.
Then I need you to fill out a public forum sheet and bring it to me.
All
okay?
Hey, good, how are you?
Whenever you're ready.
Good morning. We call this meeting to order. The Escambia County Competency Board, August the 7th, 2024. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum this morning?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, with 6 members present, we do.
Okay, do we have proof of publication of our meeting?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, it was published on August 1st, 2024 in the Escambia County Sun Press.
Okay. Do I have a motion for approval for the minutes from the July 10 meeting?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion has been approved. Do we have anyone speaking to the public forum this morning?
I believe that we have one person that is wanting to speak at public forum. I believe he's back there filling out a form now. If we can just wait a moment.
We sure can.
If you'd like, I can go over the rules while we're waiting.
Yes, that would be great.
So please silence all cell phones. If you wish to speak, please let the board secretary know in advance. Otherwise, raise your hand for the board chair to recognize your request. When the chairman calls you to speak, come to the podium, adjust the microphone, then state your name and address for the record. You are requested to keep your remarks brief and factual. Parties of an issue will be granted uniform maximum time to speak, which usually runs between 3 to 5 minutes. This hearing is considered quasi-judicial. Conduct is formal, and profane or derogatory comments will not be tolerated. We did have,
He's still filling it out. It's Pedro Perez.
we have a Mr. Pedro Perez that wishes to speak at public forum. We're still waiting on his form.
I'm sorry, that's not his name.
Yeah, it says Pedro Perez and Christopher Brown. If, Mr. Perez, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Pedro Perez. My address is 4912 South Field Road, Pensacola, Florida, 32526.
Thank you, Mr. Perez.
Yes, sir. Mr. Brown is taking care of his mother and his wife. They are dementia. The doctor and the people that care for it don't get there until after 9. So he asked me to come over and speak for him while he gets here. If you want to wait for him, we can wait for him. If he's not, because we entered in an agreement with Mr. Cow and his lawyer, and they have a copy of it. I got a copy here. We have made 2 payments, one for $10,000, one for $5,000. I guess he's here now, and we're
Question.
requesting to be able to reinstate the ability to pull permits so we can keep working and pay him.
Okay, 1 second. Mr. Bell?
Is this on the agenda?
No, sir, it's not an
Okay.
agenda item. If you recall, at our last hearing, Mr. Perez and Mr. Brown presented that they had an agreement with Mr. Cow. And at that time, Mr. Brown's permitting privileges were suspended.
Right.
Until which time he paid the restitution in full. Mr. Brown and Mr. Perez questioned if they were to make some payments, could they come back to the board? You all said yes, that he could come back to the board, but it would be discussed and determined at that time. I believe that Mr. Perez is saying that he has made 2 payments that we're aware of, one for $10,000, one for $5,000. And I think that's the goal today, is that he wishes to have the permitting privileges reinstated.
Mr. Cow is here too, so he can speak about it,
victim,
if
yeah.
you want to call him.
Ms. Legal?
Well, my concern is that this has not been noticed to the public.
Right.
And it's not on the agenda.
Right.
So it would need to be noticed to the public before the board could have something that they could vote on.
So all we could vote on is that we will review it, but it would still have to go through the process,
You
correct?
wouldn't even have to vote on that.
We don't
You
have
could
to
just
vote
say,
on it?
put it on the next agenda,
Okay.
and we'll look at it then.
Okay,
And that is what this is for, is for
That's
you
what
to
it's for now.
direct staff to
Okay.
get this as an agenda item.
okay. Do I have any comments from the board on that? Any positions or opinions or thoughts? Is it okay to submit it back to the,
I think it should go back on the agenda
On the agenda.
for next meeting, possibly.
everybody feel the same? Good deal. All right, Mr. Perez, we will allow it to go back on the agenda next meeting. We have to have the 30-day notice that's sent out, so we can't just take care of it right this minute, but we will hear it in our next meeting.
Yeah, well, it's very urgent
I-
that we go back to work, because otherwise, we're not gonna have the ability to keep paying.
I understand.
And 30 days is a lot of days.
I understand, and we literally have guidelines to work by that we cannot get outside of. So we don't have a choice. We have to have public notification of this on our meetings. Am I correct, Ms. Christie?
Correct. The public has a right to know what's going to be
Right.
heard before this board.
So we don't, Mr. President, if we could, I think there's enough sympathy on here that we would do what we can, but we just don't have a choice.
Okay.
Okay?
I guess we gotta obey by the rules now.
I'm sorry.
All right, we'll see.
But we will put it on the agenda. Our secretary will put it on the agenda.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Anybody else in public forum?
We might want to, because I saw some new parties enter, we might just want to sound the room and see if there was anybody else that arrived for public forum.
Is there anyone else that arrived for public forum that has not put your name on the list? Okay, no problem. Thank you. All right, we'll move into the secretary's status report.
I have nothing for the board today.
That's probably good news. Contractor applications. Mr.
Yes, so contractor applications, our first item is Cody Brown, application for examination residential contractor. Mr. Brown, are you in the audience today? If you could please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Cody Brown, address 717 East Canal Drive, Gulf Shores, Alabama, 36542.
It is staff's recommendation that Mr. Brown's application be approved.
Motion for approval?
Do I have any questions? I have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none. You've been approved for the session for the residential contractor. Good luck,
Thank you.
man. Thank you.
Our next item is Addison Spence, application for examination roofing. Addison Spence, are you in the audience today? If you could please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Addison Spence, and my address is 7941 Susan Lane Drive, Milton, Florida, 32570.
It is staff's recommendation that this application be approved.
Motion for approval?
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any questions? All in favor, say aye. Or raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion has been approved. You've been approved for it, man.
Our next item is David Rogers, application for examination roofing. Mr. Rogers, if you could please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
David Rogers, 3435 Holt Circle, Pensacola, Florida, 32526.
It is staff's recommendation that this application be approved.
Okay.
Motion for approval?
I have a motion and a second. To have any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion has been approved. You have been approved to take your testing.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Our next item is Joshua Mayfield, application for examination roofing. Mr. Mayfield? If you could please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Joshua Mayfield, 2441 Henry Gray Road, Bonifay, Florida, 32425.
And it is staff's recommendation for approval.
Motion to approve?
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion, questions? I have a question. All of these are coming back to the same roofing company. I mean, is this company going?
No. It's my understanding that Mr. Ward is very supportive of his employees getting their roofing and licenses, and that they all decided to apply at the same time. And yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's just a curiosity factor. It's like the whole company's leaving and
Yeah.
going to business. Okay, good luck, man. I have a motion, a second? Yes. And discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign, seeing none, hearing none, motion approved. Good luck.
Thank you.
Got some good competition, sounds like.
Then we have Mr. Brian Ward, application for examination roofing. As a side note, Mr. Ward already has a state certified roofing license. He would like to also obtain his license on the local level.
Brian Ward, 7941 Susan Lane Drive, Milton, Florida, 32570.
It is staff's recommendation for approval.
Motion to approve?
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none. Good luck continuing doing what you've been doing.
Thank you.
And then also, Mr. Ward has an application for examination for general contractor. He's still with us, and it is staff's recommendation for approval.
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none. Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byrne.
All of the applicants, you do not have to remain with us for the duration of this hearing unless you absolutely want to. You can get back with our contractor licensing division later today or tomorrow to speak with them about your testing vouchers and any other questions you might have. Okay. Oh.
Okay, we move into our probable cause hearing.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Our first item is Mark P. Nunez, doing business as Creekwood Builders LLC. State registered license number RR 282812147. Contractor Competency Board complaint number 240434COM. It's in regard to Charles Day, the homeowner complainant at 1202 East Gadsden Street, Pensacola, Florida, 32501. If you can recall, this hearing actually came before the board at our last meeting.
Right.
And the board at that time determined to proceed to a disciplinary hearing for this specific case. However, during that hearing, there was a wrong or citing of violation. If you look at your backup, we have an amended investigative report. So what it previously had was 1837 D15B. In code, that is actually a failure to obtain an inspection. But what the board cited is that Mr. Nunez never pulled the required permitting. So I don't know if you want to hear this case fully again, or if you want to maintain your decision to proceed and just correct the code violation that was cited. It's at the board, and you might want to ask Ms. Christie what. So it was previously cited as 1837 D15B. Now we've corrected it to C, which it should have been. So.
Was notice sent?
Oh, yes, notice was sent to the respondent. Mr. Nunez, are you present today? Mr. Nunez is not present. And Mr. Day, are you present today? And Mr. Day is not present. They both were not present at the last hearing.
Yeah, we were hoping somebody would show up. Everybody familiar with this case? Do you remember? Do you need a little summarizing of it?
I wasn't here, so.
Just a quick summary. We have
Okay.
a couple folks that are,
I can definitely do that. So we received a formal complaint from Mr. Day. It alleged that Mr. Nunez from Creekwood Builders received funds for a remodel rehab project, and he did not pull the required permits or perform any substantial amount of work. And he claimed that Mr. Nunez abandoned the project. So Mr. Day's home is located at 1202 East Gadsden. This is in the city limits. Day states that he entered into an agreement for a renovation in November of 2022. They began some interior demolition work and clean out of the home in November, and Mr. Day made payments. He states that the financing for the project was obtained in February of 2023, and he paid Nunez an additional $5,221.44 to obtain the permitting. So he made several payments to Mr. Nunez, and began working with an architect and an engineer to design some plans, because it started out as a simplistic just remodel, and then it grew into more, okay? From April to November of 2023, they really didn't communicate much. I know that at one point, the engineer reached out to Nunez, and Nunez was not responsive to the engineer on some information that was needed for the plans. Mr. Day sent Mr. Nunez some emails asking him if he was going to continue with the project, and if not, he would like his deposit, the initial payments made, refunded, to which Mr. Day did not get a response. In March, Mr. Day reached out to Nunez telling him he had an update on the project. And when Mr. Nunez called Days informed him that he would like a return of deposit and they were going to terminate their contract. Mr. Nunez applied for the permit with the city permitting office, but never paid for the permit. And he stated that he never paid for it because the scope of work was ever evolving, and he knew that he was going to have to get that permit updated. He still did work prior to obtaining a permit. So that's the basis of the complaint. And they came to an agreement that monies would be returned. Mr. Nunez did return some of the money, but there have been no further payments made. The contract was terminated. They made an agreement for refund, and a full refund has not been received. Again, permits were never obtained.
The purpose of our investigation is only the permit issue. Or is there any other additional violations?
There were. One of
Mismanagement.
them was the fact of the permit. He never got the required permitting. We said that there was possibly a violation of mismanagement or misconduct for the agreement to return funds, and that was never completed. And then abandonment, because Mr. Nunez did not return to the project in excess of a period of 90 days.
But according to his email, he didn't know what the scope of work was going to be, correct?
That's correct. That was his
Kept changing.
statement, that it was an evolving scope of work.
So did he do any work on the project?
There was some interior demolition and clean-out work that was performed.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
Was that required to be permitted, what he did do?
Interior demolition work requires permit.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the scope of work. Typically, it does because there's, electrical involved. Definitely if it's load-bearing walls, if they're taking load-bearing walls out. More than likely.
If you start demolition before you actually get your building permit, I think, Mr. Talbot, is that correct? Then you do get a demolition permit.
That's correct. Or you could wait and the permit could include demolition.
Right, your building
and-
permit could, if you get the full permit.
Right.
Right.
Any reason why neither one of them showed up last month's meeting or this month, or just?
That's correct. Neither party was present during last month's meeting, and they are not present today.
So are we just correcting the code for 15C?
Well, that was the goal for calling this back to hearing, is that it was cited as B, and the board voted to proceed to disciplinary hearing with it cited as B, and it should have been C.
And then we would decide today, does it move to disciplinarian or not? That was the intent.
Do I need to recite all three of them, or just do correction?
Case number, you probably, can he just cite case number instead of, for a motion to be on the floor, he can cite case number instead of going through each individual item?
No, that's correct. The case number was already read into the record.
But he can make a motion
Yes.
to move case number so-and-so to
That is
disciplinary.
correct.
Right, without having to go.
Okay, I make a motion to amend the order for disciplinary hearing for code section 18-37 D 15B to Code Section 18-37D15C.
Second.
Do I have any discussion?
Just correct me if I'm wrong, you said that we need to make this amendment to the code section, but it already was moving into the disciplinary action, correct?
That is correct. The board determined to move it toward the disciplinary hearing last time. We just need to correct the violations cited.
Are we able to correct the violation cited and then move forward with a disciplinary action?
That's correct.
Today?
Not today.
We cannot do the
Oh, not today.
disciplinary
Okay.
hearing today. There has to be proper notice sent for a disciplinary hearing, and so that would come up at the next meeting.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion has been approved and will be moved to disciplinary hearing.
Is there any way we can encourage them to be at these meetings?
Send them notice.
So what I will tell you is the notices are sent out, and on the notices, especially to the contractor, the notice says that they are required to be at these hearings.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Our next item is Wade L. Hunter III, doing business as Lee Hunter Construction, LLC, state registered license number RR 282812171, Contractor Competency Board complaint number 240749 COM. It's in regard to Charles Thomas, the homeowner complainant at 622 Air Street, Molino, Florida 32577. Proper notice was sent to the respondent. You can see in your backup, it was sent certified. Mr. Thomas, are you present today? Thank you. And are you going to provide testimony for this case? Thank you. And Mr. Hunter, are you present today? And are you going to provide testimony? I mean, he's not here. I was told that he was in the lobby. I received a message that he was in the lobby. Yeah, if you don't mind, he might not realize. Just give it a moment.
he's done, okay. So it appears Mr. Hunter is not here.
Yeah, so Mr. Hunter is not present. At this time, I'm going to have Mr. Thomas and Ms. Reber sworn, and Ms. Reber will remain sworn for the duration of this hearing.
Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
Thomas. Mr.
Yes,
Thomas.
you can have a seat closer.
I didn't know if I needed to come up.
No,
I'm
not
sorry.
yet, but yeah, you can definitely have a seat closer if
He
you'd
was
like.
not sworn in.
And if you can please be sworn.
Okay. Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. So, Ms. Reber, was a complaint filed with this board, and on what date was it filed?
Yes, it was June 11th, 2024.
And you performed an investigation into the allegations within the complaint?
Yes, I did.
And how long did that investigation run?
Mr. Thomas filed the complaint. I investigated between June 17th, 2024 through July 15th, 2024.
And you were able to communicate with the complainant in regard to the complaint filed?
Yes, I was.
And did the complainant provide any supporting documentation for the complaint?
He did, and it's attached to the agenda.
If you can please take us through which items on the agenda were provided by Mr. Thomas?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing them.
So we have a complaint form?
Yes, a complaint form.
We have estimates for the project. Was that Mr. Thomas?
That's correct.
Proof of payments,
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
text communications,
Yes.
photos of damages,
Yes,
project photos,
that's correct.
and then a text from a subcontractor.
That is from Mr. Thomas.
Staff would request that these items attached to the agenda be moved into evidence.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Thank you.
And Ms. Reber, were you able to communicate with the respondent about this complaint?
Yes, I was. I got a response to the complaint via email.
And did Mr. Hunter provide any supporting documentation for the complaint?
No, he did not.
And at the completion of the investigation, were you able to assign any alleged violations to the complaint? If so, please take us through your findings and a detailed justification for each alleged violation.
Yes, I was. Code Section 1837C11, finding that a contractor is guilty of fraud or deceit or gross negligence, incompetency, or misconduct in the practice of contracting. This project revolves around a very large tree falling on the Thomas's home back in July. Mr. Hunter was hired to repair the damage, remove the tree and repair the damages. In the process of removing the tree, this was an insurance claim, despite the fact that he was allotted the ability to use a crane to remove the tree. He elected to use, I believe it was a skid steer, ultimately damaging the garage portion of the home further. The project has drug out for quite some time. Also that, Mr. Hunter also did a lot of, on the project, he's had no inspections, does have a permit, but has, the scope of the work does not cover anything that he's done. Therefore, nothing has been inspected on the project. Code Section 1837D, 9D, contracting beyond scope of license, a safety hazard is created. Mr. Hunter has done wiring in the garage, and he is not a licensed electrician. There's no permit for that, obviously no inspections done.
Mr. Thomas, this is your opportunity to come to the podium and address the board in regard to your complaint, okay?
Name, address, and all that.
Yes, sir, please.
My
Thank
name's
you.
Charles Thomas. I live at 622 Air Street, Molino, Florida, 32577. The tree fell on our house July the 9th of last year. Work started in September of last year. We have given Mr. Hunter approximately $55,000 to start working everything, and then it was going to be a final payment of whatever it was at the end of work. And here we are in August, a year later. I want my house fixed. I mean, I got my girlfriend sitting there nipping at the bits. We're both co-owners of it. And there's hurricane clips that are still missing. And luckily this storm avoided us and didn't build up to anything. But who's to say we don't get one next week and we lose our roof? Insurance ain't gonna cover it. And we'll be without a house and $250,000 mortgage that has to be paid. So I'm just trying to get something done here.
Board have any questions? Seems on the pictures there, what status is the house in right now? What does it look like right now? Does it still have a blue tarp? Is it?
No, we did, no. We did have it completely re-roofed. It is
So
have any
it
other-
is completely roofed as of right now?
Yes, it does have a roof on it, but the trusses that were put in, it was stick-built trusses. They were not in the permitting. They were not engineered. We have approximately 5 to 6 trusses that are over the garage that they were, pre-built from, I think it's Tibbetts
Trust company?
Trust Company, yes, sir. And, they weren't even, like, the garage ain't even in the scope on the permitting. I'm trying to see.
That is part of, Mr. Hunter did all of that truss work, and none of that is noted in his permit.
And some of the trusses that you see in this picture right here, that's on the back side of my house. Maybe 3 or 4 trusses, like this side of it where you can't see it. There's still a broken truss. Like, it's hard to miss because as soon as you open my attic hatch, you can look straight up and see a split truss. So,
According to that picture that you just ran by, the original house was a stick frame roof. That's what it looks like, correct?
Yeah, it looks like a stick frame roof.
Okay.
Doesn't
yes,
look-
I believe it is a stick.
doesn't
So they
look
went
like
back with
trusses.
what was there is kind of what they,
Yeah, what I'm looking at is stick built.
right,
That's not trusses.
Yeah.
No.
That's what I mean, stick built.
right.
Right, I'm sorry.
I
Would you-
believe there was a total of 22 that had to be repaired.
Would you have had to get engineering on that to repair, or just go back with what's there? What would the code,
Depends on how much.
damage
That
percentage?
would be some engineering.
As
We would
much
need
as it is there
engineering on
now.
that.
Because I know the main beam running down the center of the house was busted also, and that had to be repaired.
That would definitely be, okay. And there's pictures of electrical wires that have been reworked or in the process of being reworked? What's the state of the inside at this point?
Well, it,
Yeah,
basically like that right there. I'm assuming they're not hot and hooked up, but the garage has no power hooked to it. It's been killed at the breaker box.
this is the condition it's in right now?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Thomas, who did the electrical wiring in that?
Mr. Hunter did.
The Thomases did provide a video, something we can't attach to the agenda, but we do have that.
Because Christina, my girlfriend, she took a video of Lee. I told her, I was like, you see him out there doing electrical? I'm like, take a video of it. That proves he's doing electrical. And there's no one else there. And so she has him on video.
Board, if you would like to, for me to play that video, I can bring that up and play it.
It's up to you guys here.
And then we would have to move the video into evidence.
Anybody want to see the evidence of him?
I'm not sure it's necessary.
Take his word that it's
Yes.
done.
Thank you.
Thank you, though.
If there's anything about the electrical in the charges and you're considering that for the probable cause, I would recommend that you see the evidence. I motion to put into evidence.
Sure.
We need to see it then.
It's in the.
Thank you, Miss Christie, for keeping us straight.
She had a motion to move it to evidence. She made a motion to move it to evidence. You want to go ahead and move it to evidence?
You want to move it to evidence before we see it or after we see it? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. I think you're going to do.
I have a motion on the
You're
floor.
going to do both either way.
I have a motion on the floor to move it to evidence.
Second.
And I have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none, motion is approved.
Mr. Thomas, if you can please explain what this video represents.
What it is Mr. Hunter, and the reason how I can tell it is him, because Mr. Hunter does have a big old beard. And see the big bushy facial hair right there. And also I've seen him on the camera and stuff that day around the house. That's him running electrical through the, appears to be running electrical across the, trusses in the garage.
It's a second video.
I'm bringing it up now.
Okay.
There is the second one that they came together.
In some of the text communication, Mr. Hunter does speak about, you know, coming to run the electrical.
And those text communications are part of the backup on the agenda. Pardon me.
Does the board have any other questions before we?
I'm sorry, part of the evidence already admitted.
Gotcha. The board have any other questions before we decide what to do with this? Are we ready to make a move forward? I will entertain a motion.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
One question. Mr. Thomas, you said there was a roof, your roofing is complete?
It is, yes, sir. It has been completely, re-roofed, enclosed, and the inside, we had a whole bunch of, or I say a whole bunch, we had some holes through the ceiling and stuff, and it was sheetrock, but when all the sheetrock got ripped out, the house originally had tongue and groove ceilings. Me and Christina both kind of liked the older tongue and groove look, so we decided to go back with that and just had it patched in and stuff, so everything is enclosed. So inside the house, the bathroom still needs to be, the roof over the shower needs to be done. The shower needs to be reinstalled, or a new shower needs to be reinstalled, and the sheetrock work around that. And I'm trying to think, in the
That's okay.
garage.
That answered, I just wanted to know if it was the roof, mainly the roofing,
Yes,
it's
sir.
not leaking.
No, it's not leaking, but
Okay.
there is,
Is there a roofing permit? Can I ask staff?
That's what I was going to ask about the inspections. Have
Yes.
you get inspections along the way for this?
Yes, there was a roofing contractor hired to do that work. That's part of what caused Mr. Thomas to have some concern. When he got to looking about the roof, he reached out to the roofer. At that time, the roofer had not been paid, and there was an issue going on. However, he's since been paid, but it was a roofing contractor who had an affidavit inspection
And did they have
that
like
did pass.
framing inspection and all this stuff yet?
Nothing. Mr. Hunter,
Mr. Hunter, has he had any inspections?
he's not
of
had
this?
any inspections. I believe his permit is set to expire the 7th of this month.
Okay.
But he's yet to change up the scope or
Good deal.
anything.
Any other questions?
Can I make a statement on that just real fast? I apologize. The roofing contractor was paid immediately.
Oh, okay.
It was,
Apologize.
Mr., it was Benjamin, the subcontractor, was not paid. He's the one that contacted us saying that he was gonna put a lien on our house. And then I contacted the roofing contractor when, Ms. Reber provided me
Gotcha.
the permitting and stuff, and I called him and I was like, do I owe y'all any money?
But the
He was
primary
like, "No."
contractor was paid. The
Yeah,
primary
he said,
roofer.
no,
Gotcha.
we have been
Gotcha.
paid.
Thank you.
So,
I apologize for that. There
okay.
is some some text messages regarding those other subcontractors that I
Okay.
have spoken to and still have not been paid.
Any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion of the board's desire.
I'll make a motion, move this disciplinary hearing based on the allegations presented.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none. Motion is approved to move it to disciplinary hearing.
thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Okay, we will be moving into the disciplinary hearing phase.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. This is a hearing for failure to comply with final order. James B. Freeman, doing business as Freeman Roofing, state registered license number RC 0058058. Contractor competency complaint numbers 23112-123 COM and 2306670 COM. Those two complaints were ultimately combined by the board. It's in regard to Nick and Chloe Sexton, the complainants at 101 South F Street, Pensacola, Florida 32502. This is within the city limits. If you recall, this also came to hearing at our last board meeting, but a request for a continuance was received, and the board determined at that time to allow the continuance. I'll draw your attention to the notice for disciplinary hearing. So this hearing is being called because the restitution that was assessed within the final order was not paid in accordance with the approved payment plan on the required date. We did receive communications that the payment plan was not upheld, basically. I know that at one point there was an appeal filed which put a stay on that initial first payment. So it got pushed to July is when that payment should have been made. And again, we received communications that that was not paid and remains unpaid. Proper notice was sent to the respondent, and I see that the respondent is here today along with representation. I see that also the complainants, Mr. and Ms. Sexton, are also here. It's at the discretion of the board on how we proceed. If you would like to hear from any of the parties, we would need to have them sworn.
Mr. Chairman, I think, wasn't this delayed for legal review? Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. Ms. Christie can help us?
Yes. What had happened last time is we were handed a copy of a petition for certiorari with the circuit court, which is how you appeal findings of the CCB if you're going to go through the legal system,
Right.
as opposed to filing with the board, or you can do both. They're collateral. The BOCC can make a decision and send it back to you for further determination, or the circuit court can make a determination and send it back to you for further determination. And those are so what I needed to look at was to see what happens in a situation where, in this case, as what's been explained to me, there hasn't been any payments made, so to see if this board has jurisdiction to continue with your decisions and how you want to handle that. I haven't seen that any bond has been posted. I haven't seen that any bond has been requested. So a stay on these proceedings has not been entered. So as far as this court is concerned, as far as this quasi-judicial hearing is concerned, you can go forward, and that's what I wanted to confirm.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. I appreciate you doing the research there. So what we've helped me surmise this up here. So what we've done is we have went through the disciplinary hearing and imposed the restitution amount, which payments was to be made. No payments have been made, and that's why it came back to us. And then Ms. Christie wanted to find out. So we are back to the situation of no payments have been made, and where do we go forward? Did I put it right, Ms. Christie?
Within our guidelines.
Within our guidelines, yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And we would need to look at the status of what the probationary, anytime a hearing is requested with the Board of County Commissioners, according to our Municode, there is a stay of proceedings, a stay of execution of whatever the
Right,
punishment would have been.
right.
In this situation, though, that has passed. That is not a similar situation with the circuit court. It has to have been requested, it was not requested, and still a bond would have to be posted and
Right.
able to stay any proceedings here of enforcement of that after the hearing that we had with the Board of County Commissioners.
Right.
So you can, so she can bring you up to date on what the status is of
So as of
the days
today,
he should
the
have made payments.
3 payments as of May, June, July are the 3 that have not been paid as of,
Well, it stayed for those first 2 months, and so it would push out
To the July 15th.
So he should have started making payments by July 15th.
By July 15th,
Yes,
the first 10,299.53.
that's correct.
Gotcha. And no payments have been received according to,
So this was brought to the board last month.
right?
Because he had not made June's payment.
Right.
So now he has not made June's and July's. I just want to make sure
Okay.
that's clear.
And the payments are paid directly to or into a fund? How did we decide that?
So the board ordered that the payments be made via cashier's check or money order straight to the complainant.
I see where we made it. I didn't know if they were supposed to turn it in straight to the complainants or if it goes through okay.
And then, of course, within your final order, if the respondent should fail to make payment, then the respondent shall be brought before the board for further disciplinary action. And that's open to any discipline within the county ordinance. I can bring that up as well if you need me to.
Yeah, we need to see what our guidelines are, please.
Yes, sir.
Everybody following us so
So
far?
far, and I think you've got his counsel here, so if we want to hear them, maybe shed some light on it and why the payments haven't been made.
Ms. Christie, would it be appropriate, okay, to hear from the council as to their status at this point?
Oh, yes, sir. I mean, a hearing is set, so if they want to have a hearing, then they certainly can present their side. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Benjamin Alexander, 811 North Spring Street. I'm here for Freeman Roofing. Just some quick updates. In addition to the restitution, there were some fines. My client has paid those. With respect to the license, my client is in the process of winding down that license and ultimately closing it. So he will be closing this particular license that it's at issue. Any permits that are currently open under that are being transferred to another permit. Mr. Freeman ultimately is going to segue out, and other people are going to come in with other permits. In addition, my client has made an insurance claim based on this loss and hope that will lead to some funds. Frankly, that's probably our best course of action to get some extra funds so that the sections could potentially be made whole. So that is in the process. My client has made that claim, just one moment, and I will tell you, through Integrity Insurance. We have a claim number. I don't know if you want me to. Okay.
We trust you.
So that's in the process of being processed. So we're hoping that's going to be processed here rather soon so that there will be some funds available to hopefully make this whole. So that's kind of where we are right now. The non-payment's not respectfully, it's not a willful non-payment. It's a lack of funds currently kind of issue. And so that's why the insurance claim, we are looking for other sources to potentially bring some funds in to try to ultimately address this. So that's where we are right now.
Okay. And you understand our position, our place we're put into here?
Oh, absolutely. I
having to-
understand.
Okay.
The council's correct. No stay has been granted. We haven't requested one yet. Not really sure what the court's going to do with that petition, but in any case, like I said, Mr. Freeman understands the situation, so he's trying to be proactive and trying to address that, given the circumstances that currently constrain us.
Right.
So yes.
Good deal. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Question for you real quick, sorry. What's the timeline of which you filed with the insurance company and what is soon?
I didn't personally make that claim. I understand it was made sometime in the past, but I can't tell you the exact date because I don't have that information with me.
Okay.
In terms of soon, again, I haven't directly corresponded with the insurance. The plan is for me to kind of take that over to hopefully expedite it because typically when you get an attorney involved, insurers are
Right.
more prone to address claims a little
And
bit
you have all
more
that information.
expeditiously. So that being said, it's an insurance company.
I think
There's a
that-
lot of factors that go into how soon a claim would be paid.
I think there may have been some talking over. I thought I heard Ms. Luna ask a second question, which was something about information. Just information as to the insurance claim, making sure that, when it was put in, and then just providing that information to make sure. I mean, I would definitely love to take everyone at their word, but just to make sure it is.
I mean, again, I
and
can-
when it was done, That way it can kind of illustrate and demonstrate the reasoning of why the payments haven't been made.
I can provide you with a
That'd be wonderful.
a claim number. All right, so that is going to be 01BGL 2024001634.
And then legal advice on that, Christy, is that something that we can get the documentation of and then put it? You could request it of,
Staff.
well, staff can't get it. We don't have access to his information.
Right.
However, you could request it of their attorney and they can give it to him or not.
Okay.
As part, and I don't know if those communications have been made with, the sextons either. So those are all questions, I don't know if they've been noticed.
I-
They're shaking their head no.
I haven't heard from their attorney, and I can't, of course, contact them, so.
Can I
Okay.
make a request
I
for
did
that
ask them to
paperwork?
have their attorney contact me in the last hearing, and I haven't heard from them yet, so.
So if you want to request
I'd like to
that-
make a request for that paperwork.
Okay. I'll request that from my client, and I'll provide what I'm able to under law.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, so this particular license is being closed out, no new permits is
Correct.
being.
As I understand it, they're in the process of transferring everything. I believe all but about a dozen or so have already completed the transfer. And those would be any currently open permits. And so they're being transferred to a separate license. I don't have that license number here with me, but I understand some of that was done previously. And Mr. Freeman indicated he had spoken with someone here at the county about that.
Okay. Any other questions for him?
I have one more. Sorry. Now, just kind of clarify for me, because I am not a roofer and I'm not a contractor, but my question is, with them moving the permit situation underneath another license, are they, I know in a previous case, we moved for suspension of taking out permits for future work. With them doing that, is that a way to kind of circumvent? Sorry, I know I asked these
So I can probably
questions.
assist with that. So Mr. Freeman holds two licenses. He holds a local license and a state certified license. I know that when he applies with Escambia County, he utilizes his state certified license. He has kept his local license up to date and intact. You never know when you might need it. But his applications have his state certified license number on them. There was some testimony provided previously that they thought they had applied with the state certified license on this particular permit to the city. We had requested, any documentation they had in regard to that. Nothing was ever provided, but that was the claim at that time. It is the belief from Mr. Freeman that he thought he had applied with his state certified license, so any action for this whole case would have been made against his state certified license, which we do not have jurisdiction over. Whenever it's city and state certified, any complaint would have went straight to the state. So I don't know that if it's what you think is circumventing. I think
the
he
question
holds
is
the other
that
license.
once you swap permits to another license, then it don't matter what we do to this license. And that's what we had on the previous case, and that is very accurate. Does it, if he cancels this particular license number, we still have obligations of what to do, but the effectiveness of it will be limited.
Thank you.
Is that pretty accurate?
That is correct.
Thank you. Any other questions then? Thank you, counsel. So it looks like, according to what's on the screen here, the penalties would be denial, suspension, or revocation to obtain building permits, license revoking for not less than 1 year, no more than 5 years, and with egregious circumstances warranted permanent revocation, suspension for a period of 1 year, imposition of fines, costs related to investigation, prosecution, probation, reprimand, or censure. Am I accurate?
You read very well.
Thank you. So what would be the desire of the board?
Well, we don't.
I think we have our hands tied again, you know. In reviewing this and realizing this, how severe the penalties are, you know, I didn't hear a request from Freeman Roofing as to what portion of that would be acceptable, which obviously they got representation, they know what it states. I have a hard time allowing more permits in the county with the final order not being adhered to.
And if he uses his state license, then what we're doing is kind of,
But if the permitting privileges in the county would apply to both, I believe. In the
would that
Escambia
apply
County.
to both? If we,
I'm sorry.
so if we suspended whatever permitting privileges, would that include the state license and the residential, or just
Well,
the?
I think you would have to state that. You would have to, you know, your motion would be to suspend permitting privileges for both. That's just my opinion.
For the county only, correct? We're only in the jurisdiction of Escambia County.
Yeah, you could revoke that competency card, but the state license, you could put the provision of no permitting privileges in Escambia County's jurisdiction.
And I think maybe before we do a motion of anything, if the sextons want to speak, because they haven't been afforded the opportunity.
Okay, before we go there, we need to focus on this, because this is a pretty, don't mean to lessen what you're saying, but this is gonna be do we have the authority to step over into the state licensure? And I'm not comfortable with that.
I think we're talking about suspending his permitting privileges in Escambia
But
County.
I think we can only do it underneath the license that we have, not the state license.
So that's what we were just discussing back and forth. I think you're correct. I think you can only do it against the county license.
Right.
To suspend his permitting privileges, because this case was filed, that's the license he used.
Right.
So that's what allowed us to do the other things, the
Right.
fines, is because it was against that license.
Right, we can't-
However, if you decided, all of this will still remain a matter of public record, so you could even terminate his license in Escambia County up to that. And then anyone who's looking, that would put people on notice, which if you'll recall, during the Banks and Lacoste hearings that we did, that was the largest complaint, Tim, if you'll recall, when we did a public forum with BID, and that was one of the largest complaints they had, is they had no way of knowing that there had been problems.
Right.
So anything you do is still going to remain on the public record of
Right.
Escambia County, and anyone that does their homework will be able to know that there were problems in the city and that the county took action on it.
So if this local registered license was terminated, it will be on the public record that can be seen. But we can't do anything to affect the state license, including limiting the ability to pull permits.
Is this one that would be referred to the state or not?
You referred it, but without action.
Right.
So at this point, that's already been done.
Yeah, we can refer it to them, but then they have to decide what to,
Well, the original referral was with no action.
just goes in their records.
And it's a county case. I don't know that they would have taken any actions anyway.
I can, I just had another meeting with DBPR secretary, Miss Melody Griffin, who's a very sweet lady, but her hands are just limited. And from the state level, I've been involved with it, and it's a mess. It's a mess. There's really, good luck on getting much of anything done. So.
Mr. Chair, clarification or request, but if a contractor, state licensed contractor,
I know you have a lot of questions. Can you give us just a moment off record so we're not confusing her?
Sure.
Because I need to talk to our building official. If you just give me just.
We will be happy to.
I'll answer it for you, sure.
I'm gonna say against legal, right? Should I take a 5-minute recession? I think so.
Okay. I'm ready, Mr. Lister.
Yes, ma'am.
What we were researching was another area, but I don't think you have jurisdiction in that area. So as far as I think what you've got the picture of is that we cannot suspend his permitting privileges for his state for his state license, his certified license.
Just the local registered.
Or, and I say suspend, you can also terminate it, but you can't suspend
Right,
against
yeah,
the
we
state.
can do anything with the local license, but nothing to affect the state. But if we do the terminating, sorry, go ahead.
I would agree with that, with the exception that you can have just a state license and do construction or contracting work in Escambia County, but we can suspend or revoke your permitting privileges in this county with that license. We don't affect the license, but we can suspend the permitting privileges to protect the citizens of Escambia County.
This board can do that for a state license?
That's the way I interpret the code.
So if a complaint is filed against a state license within the county, and it is within the county's permitting jurisdiction, then yes, we have that authority to suspend permitting privileges. The difference is, with this case, the permit was obtained with the local license and it was in the city limits. We don't have jurisdiction over the city limits permitting, but we do have jurisdiction over the local license. Had he pulled it with his state certified license in the city, this board would have never heard this case because we didn't have jurisdiction over the state license or the city permitting. So that's the difference here.
Right, it would have gone straight to the CILB if he'd pulled it under a state license and it was a city permit. The reason why it ended up here is it was the county license.
If I might add, if the permit would have been issued in the county with the state license, then
we could have done.
It would be applicable.
But I think,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Randy, good question.
yeah, I think, Randy, I understand where you're coming from. It's whether or not Escambia County can suspend those permitting rights, and you're saying we can't, right? Because the license wasn't used, we understand that portion of it, but I thought that Escambia County had the authority that if they wanted to suspend somebody's licenses, even if they weren't used because it's the same entity, same individuals,
But if a complaint was made on the state license,
only if the complaint was made on the state license is what
Yes.
you're saying?
yes.
Right, the state license was not included in
Right.
this complaint
Right.
at all.
Okay.
For you to take action against the permitting privileges of that state license, I would think that you would need some form of a hearing, some form, because it wasn't part of this complaint
Right.
process.
So here's what my recommendation would be, because I really want to look at this closer. I apologize. I think as far as you're concerned, as far as the state license, the county license, that's your jurisdiction. I want to look and see if just the permitting office itself, the BID, has the authority to make any actions against where a state contract license is concerned based on cause. If they see something that's come before you that you don't have the jurisdiction over, to see if the county has any authority outside of your authority to make any decisions, because you don't have a case in front of you that's against his state license. So I want to check to see, and so that wouldn't have to, I'm going to check to see if that would even have to come before you. So if you just resolve the question today as to the county license
Right.
and what actions you want to
Right.
take.
Then we could go from there.
Terminating the county license at this point also, I was just double checking, he doesn't have any permits under the county license right now. So it would still allow him to finish the jobs that he has pending and still allow him to earn the money that he needs to earn to pay back the sextons or the insurance to come forward.
It would just go on public record.
Yeah, you would have a public record that there had been actions against his license, whatever the board decides those actions should be, of the local license. It would not be on the CILB website.
Right,
Yeah.
just the local website. So do I have anybody want to make a motion based on the options of what we are able to do, or guidelines? Denial, suspension, or revocation of the authority to obtain a building permit, or authority may be limited to a permit or permits with conditions. License revocation for a period of not less than a year or more than 5 years, with egregious circumstances warranting permanent revocation. Suspension for a period not exceeding 1 year, imposition of fines, imposition of costs related to the investigation, prosecution of this case, probation, reprimand, or censure, restitution to the homeowner. Continuing education requirements or a combination thereof. Do I have a motion from anybody on where?
This is a tough one. I just got a quick question or a comment, and I'm gonna, Mr. Freeman, I'm gonna kind of direct it to you and your counsel. I know you're working with insurance. I know you've been doing business in Escambia County for many years. But what are the chances of that insurance actually coming through and paying off, based on the claim that you've made?
95%.
And outside of that, you can't start making installments. And I know, again, I don't know your business end of it. I'm trying to put it in a position where, the license gets permanently suspended or permanently terminated to where it's on record, rather than just suspending it for a period of time to where it gives you the opportunity, but we can't wait on insurance. Sextons can't continue waiting. They've been in here a little bit over a year and a half, I think we've been having trying this case. Is make some good faith effort to say, this is what we need.
Got one question. Then y'all on that track.
Do we need to swear him in or anything?
James B. Freeman, 4201 Auckland Road, Pace, Florida.
You need to swear.
Okay, if
She
y'all
needs to
do
swear you in, Mr. Freeman, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry about that.
We won't make you swear first.
Okay. Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
James B. Freeman, 4201 Auckland Road, Pace, Florida. Okay, if y'all can do this, and we got other roofers back here too, they would probably say the same. If I go buy a permit to do a roof from the city, they come out past the final. They come out past the in progress. They pass the final. And then after everything is passed and paid, they come back later because somebody complained and say, oh, this roof is no good. I've been asking the city, all they have on there is flashing on the bottom of the permit. I've been asking them, I want to itemize, I done been up there, it can't be all the flashing, okay? I want an itemized list. They will not give me an itemized list from the county on what is damaged. So that's the reason it ain't, but that's just, I want to get y'all in on that. Y'all can't sell me a license today and go revoke it tomorrow. You cannot do that. That's the same thing the city did with their permit. They should put an amendment on there to amend the permit until we fix whatever had to be fixed. The city had never once said it needs a new roof. My friend Mike Guy Brothers, I talked to him yesterday, he said, don't need a new roof. He done been on it. Okay? And y'all trying to make me put a new roof on something If it needed a new roof, I would've did it to start with. And y'all just keep bringing me down here, embarrass me in front of my buddies and all, but
Well, Mr.
that's
Freeman,
all I got
yeah.
to say.
That's fine. Well,
Okay.
and again, we're not in any jurisdiction to
Mr.
tell the
Freeman,
city how to do
before you,
business.
Mr. Freeman, I'd like to just address you from, I want to say, behalf of the board. We do not want to embarrass you at all. That is nowhere close. We respect you and your years of service in this community. Okay?
Well, we
I want you to
never-
please understand that is not, I know it's not mine. I really can't speak for everybody in here, but I'm telling you, Mr. Freeman, I respect you,
I've been doing
and
it
that is,
47 years without having any kind
I-
of problems. We doing $1 million jobs
I-
at the base, and they love our work. They will only hire
I
us.
totally respect you, and I'm sorry that this job derailed and went the way it did, because
Oh,
my,
some of it's my fault, I know.
myself, I've been in the 40-year ring too, and it's,
But this roof does not need a new roof.
and I'm not challenging that. I just want you to walk away knowing that there's nobody with an agenda up here, and there's nobody out to
Well, I'll
get
be
you or
honest with you.
embarrass you or anything. These are just guidelines that we have to go by, Ms. Freeman, okay?
This year has put me in it's been putting me down for about the last 3 months.
And I hate that. I sincerely do,
And-
just
and
on a
all I can
personal.
tell you, I ain't even been able to do roofing hardly. Cause I try to take care of my customers. That's the first thing. It ain't about money. It
No.
ain't about money. If they needed a new roof, I would've put one on there. They don't need a new roof, but that's what it comes
Well,
down to.
you've had a good name for years, and I will tell you, the time I've been on this board, this case has drug out the longest of any, because we have tried with everything we can. Some of these other guys have been on here
As
longer
far
than
as
me,
the
but
state, somebody did file with the state, cause I got a letter from the state, and they said that there's nothing, the state is not involved. They said the state, there's no issues with the state.
we don't do it. I just want you to know that there is no intention to publicly embarrass you at all. None.
Well, it's just sorta hard, you know, we on TV and.
I understand.
And when I leave here today, I have 10 customers call me, which they respect me. They voted me again this year. My customers voted me best in Pensacola, VIP.
I saw that.
Okay.
And we
done
do
won it.
respect you.
We done put in for 4 years. It's been out 5 years. It didn't even have a roofing division in there. We the one that invented the roofing division. We had to go against general contractors. We beat Bear Construction out the first year. And we have won 4 out of 5 years that it's been.
You have a very good name, and that's why I want to make sure you know that there was no intention up here. I think I know these folks well enough that there was nothing of that thought pattern at all. We were presented with some evidence, and we had to make actions, but it was no ill intent.
Well, it's just hard when I go and y'all putting this on TV. I mean, I don't even see where that's legal.
Time out. We're not putting it on TV. These are public meetings that are required to be done this.
But y'all hurt yourself, cause I've had a lot of customers calling me complaining, saying, man, that ain't right what they doing to you. And, they call me every day. We're not gonna lose a job over this.
And I'm glad. We just only have guidelines to work with, and that's all. And that's what I want to make sure you understand, that nobody up here has
But
an agenda.
his daddy right there is one to talk. You know, I started out working with his daddy.
Yeah, he was
years ago.
a great man.
And, yeah, Mr. Charles. And, he always talked, him and Edwards Roofing is the ones I sort of
Yep,
looked at. I tried to follow their
right.
deal. And Mr. Charles, he always tell me, you know, what to do here. And then I started studying from him a little bit. And, he just believed in doing it right. And that's the way we do it. And, like I said, Mike knows, if that roof was bad, I would replace that roof.
And you've had a great name for years, and you will continue. You will. This will
I
not,
just can't understand why the city cannot give me an itemized, don't you agree they should give an itemized list? Tell me what's damaged. I know every piece of that flashing is not damaged. I
No.
know that.
yeah.
And, they cannot give me a list.
If
And
I
we-
can.
We don't control that part, so.
Yeah.
And that's
out of
where I was
our-
gonna go.
As soon as we leave here, I'm headed down there.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. I just want to make sure you heard us say
I
that.
appreciate y'all. I apologize for yesterday, cause
He did.
I was being, I got back on some pills that sort of calms me down.
Well, you've been under a lot. You really have. So,
And Mr. Patel, to answer your question, I can tell you this, doing all this is not inexpensive for my clients, certainly my representation. You haven't seen any of my fee bills, but you saw Mr. Trewick's, and you know, these things lead to a lot of fees and costs. The reason we're making the insurance claim, again, if they just had money to start stroking checks and make it so we don't have to come down here, deal with additional disciplinary proceedings, and more importantly, pay me, they do so. It's just an inability right now. It's a cash flow problem. So we're trying to get funds however they can. They're trying to wrap up a project they have that they've been working on since last year, a larger project that we're hoping will finish to our satisfaction and get some funds there, as well as the insurance claim. And again, that's the way to free up funds so that we can potentially pay them back. Obviously, again, like I said, if they could just make the payments in the meantime to keep everything at bay, that would probably be less expensive for them and would address the sexton's claim. The reason they're not doing that, it's a cash flow problem. So,
understand that. It was mentioned earlier, and I think before, Ms. Christie, we step into this, would like to allow the sexton, since they are here, if they would choose to. You don't have to, just know, out of respect for you guys being here. And you'll have to start swearing again.
Okay. You swear or affirm that testimony about to be the truth, the whole truth, and the truth, and nothing but the truth? I swear. Chloe and Nick Sexton, 101 South F Street, Pensacola, Florida, 32502. I just want to say thank you for letting us come in again. I feel like I'm here every month on the first Wednesday of the month. It's like in my calendar forever now. But yes, the strain of this has significantly impacted our business, my mental health, my husband's. It is embarrassing for us to have it televised. It's just part of doing business. But yeah, we haven't had any communication from them, haven't heard about the insurance. That's the first of me hearing it today. They have our phone numbers, emails, John's email. Would have loved to hear about that before today. But yeah, no payment has been made. Even a partial payment, anything would be great. We are about to have to make a massive payment to put a new roof on, so any payment would be great, even $1,000, just to say like, hey, we are in good faith gonna make it right. To my view, they are doing charity work. They are continuing to operate business as normal. There are new ads on vehicles. There's nothing that I can see that shows that they are going out of business or not able to make money. That's just my observation. So, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Ms. Christie, I think when we started chasing this, you were making a statement about looking into this.
What I was recommending is the board go ahead and take their actions today, and I'll continue to look to see what's the best path forward as far as the building inspections department. We certainly, there would have to be some type of cause, and so we would wait on the board to make any types of decision. And that's if there's anything that building inspections has any authority as far as the state permitting privileges. But that's going to take more research than I'm finding right now. I'll also be looking into the county code on it. I found it in other counties, but I haven't found what I was looking for in this one.
Good deal. Thank you, Ms. Christie. So we're back to where we were. I will entertain a motion from anyone, just anybody, of where to go from here.
Just so you know, if you do make the decision, depending on what you decide, if you put a suspension on the licensing or on the, against pulling any permits under that license, then eventually that suspension would terminate. However, if you put a termination with the conditions that it can't be reinstated, you also have that as an option, that it can't be reinstated without payment. So that kind of would force the compliance if he ever chose to come back and get his county. And that does happen, as you saw today. There's somebody who's a state registered roofer, contractor, and he wants a local license. So that does happen. It can go both ways. It was one of the gentlemen that stepped up.
Mr. Ward.
Now, a question for you, Christy, because I know Tim mentioned it earlier, saying to put in a provision for the state. Is that something we'd also have to add in the motion?
We do a recommendation to the CILB according to the last line here in front of you. The board shall issue a recommendation penalty for action by the CILB, which will include, oops, you just moved it.
And the reason I did that is because you already
already did that.
issued a recommendation to the CILB, and your recommendation to them was no further action.
That was a cool way
at
to
that
cut
time.
me off.
Yes, at this point, and I think Mr. Freeman is correct. He said he got a letter from the state CILB saying that they don't have any jurisdiction over it. That's just something we have in there. Once again, we can talk about more on the CILB later.
So, we're back to, what do we do on the,
I don't feel suspending his license, I know we gotta do something, but suspending his license not gonna help anybody. I mean, he's been in business a long time and he does good work. The only thing I know he did wrong, he did not put the fasteners in the right specification of the manufacturer specification. I've been by and looked at the roof. Now, I've not been on it, but it looks like a really good roof. But it still puts us as on the board in a bad situation because we have to go by the rules. So I wish he would make some kind of payment arrangement, any kind of payment arrangement if it was weekly, you know what I mean? But I'm not, you know what I mean? He hasn't, so I don't know what to do. And I feel for him because he is a good roofer, has always been a good roofer.
yes, sir.
And still is a good roofer. He has never tried to cheat anybody out of anything. But we are as a board, I'm at a loss, you know what I mean? So, on there, I'm not sure. I need help, I guess.
Totally understand.
So, Mr. Batchelor, there was a payment arrangement made, and that is why we're here, is because he did not make the payment. And it was requested by his own representation for a payment arrangement back then. So, just want to make sure that you were aware.
I didn't request a payment arrangement.
Or, I think it was a party.
I believe it was Mr. Freeman that requested it. You weren't?
Yeah.
No, ma'am.
It,
We did not.
you did, you asked for it to be longer than a period of 90 days. I specifically remember that.
Yeah, I didn't propose any kind of payment plan. I asked for it to be extended for a longer period of time. You guys did the monthly plans.
I think that's the
Just to-
same interpretation
Right.
of
Yeah.
making it
Correct.
longer, just spreading it out.
All right, just to be
Same,
very
yeah.
clear, though, I didn't have.
I think purely going off of the evidence, going off of code, going off of just the black and white as stated, and coming from a very unbiased standpoint, and just looking at the evidence of it all and listening to the recommendation of Christie, I would say motion for termination of the license. That way it goes on the record, and them not being able to pull permits under that license.
So you presenting a motion for permanent termination.
I'll make a second so we can have discussion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor with a second, and we ready for some discussion for a permanent
Like can see.
Do you want the public to see that?
I think that's just a strategy play that they're using, that they're gonna use the other license. But it still doesn't get the Saxtons paid by us terminating his, license. We'll just discuss this out for a few minutes. I'm more along the lines of suspending it until restitution has been made. That way it keeps that pressure on him, and then I don't know if we can legally not come back after maybe a 30-day or, 2 months from now and see what the update is with the insurance, knowing that we're kind of going above and beyond our scope of responsibility to making sure that they're getting paid and they're making true on their compensation based on insurance, because what if the insurance declines it? If the insurance declines it and then Mr. Freeman decides he's just not gonna pay, then definitely we need to revoke the license and, go, guns loaded. But if that isn't the case, and I don't think that is the case, I think it's the case that, if we can file under insurance, let's file it. So that's the only reason that, maybe kind of talk that out a little bit and see if that would work. And again, everybody's listening, and we're here to help the process and to get the claimants paid. So that way, we don't ruin a reputation of a 40-year relationship that we had with Escambia County. We know it's a one-off, so that's the reason why I'm bringing this up. And being in Escambia County since '79, we know a lot of people, we know things happen in business, and these new roofers that are here today, understanding that there's things that are gonna happen, and you're just gonna have to, you put your business sense on and not a roofer sense on, and figure out what's the best solution to get to where we need to get to, where you continue doing business, and you don't lose that reputation, because once you lose that reputation, it's hard to build back up. That's just kind of my comments on the direction I was leading.
Very good.
So do you want the motion withdrawn and to make a motion?
We can either withdraw it or we can vote it down and then submit a new motion.
If the board is in agreement, is what I'm saying, I'll
Yeah.
make that motion.
Well,
And general comment, yes, I would agree.
I would-
I agree with that.
I would prefer to withdraw it, that way if we come back.
I agree.
We can
Okay.
I'll withdraw the
reinstate it.
motion.
So, all right, the motion's been withdrawn. So,
Just so you know that you can only suspend it for a year.
Correct.
So if you get no action within a year, then you're right
It's
back,
over.
you're right back here.
Yeah, but I think
And-
that was the suggestion, to give like a 90-day window to revisit it. I think that's where we were
Yeah,
going.
so it would be, the motion would be to suspend until restitution has been paid. Now, I know we're saying a year, but if it takes, hopefully it won't take a year to pay it off, but within a year, we can allow the license to go back inactive. Active, sorry, not inactive. They're debating, so.
so it says suspension for a period not exceeding 1 year.
Correct.
Can we add along to that sentence, Ms. Legal? Can we add to
60
that
days.
sentence?
Or can we just put it on the docket for 6 months, 90 days to review it?
Because it's not to exceed, it's not saying a year, so.
Right.
Right, you could suspend it for a shorter time, and then if he terminates it, you can't bring it back. There's
We
nothing to
underst-
bring back.
I think we understand that, but if he's gonna terminate it, he's gonna terminate it.
Right, I'm just
Right,
saying that.
This
if
is
that-
just, we're given an opportunity to get this worked out to where it's an acceptable for everybody, including us, sitting on this dais, that we're trying to do the right thing. Because if we suspend it and, then that's it, it's done.
If you suspend it or terminate it.
Terminate, sorry, we terminate it.
Right.
We can't go back and say, oh, the termination's lifted, correct? With suspension, we can.
You could lift a termination.
Oh, we can.
Yeah. So the termination can be up to 5 years unless there's egregious circumstances, which is a permanent termination. So you also have that within your abilities to do that. He's still pulling permits. He's still working because he's got that state license. So you're not going to stop him from working.
So maybe amend your motion to terminate it until restitution has been paid.
It's
She could just do a new
withdrawn,
motion.
so if you want to make a new one.
As the chair, I need to be careful of, I'm not gonna make a motion, period. But terminology is very important here. And the word termination is a pretty strong statement.
I'm wondering if with it as well, just listening to the recommendation from Christine, what she was saying is if it's more of having it on the record as such, so that way the public is educated, just because of the
And
protecting
so
the citizens. That's, I'm just,
In
yeah,
that
for
vein,
discussion of it.
there's one time in 40 years.
Right.
Something years.
Right.
So how much,
I think she's just going off of Banks.
that was way more than, these are two different cases.
Right, I know, but just going from,
Right,
what she
right,
was saying
right,
and protecting the citizens, that's the only thing.
So you can recommend a motion, or tell us what motion you're wanting to make, and we can make the motion for you.
So do I have a motion?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I think there's a motion on the floor.
It was withdrawn.
His? Didn't you make?
I didn't make the motion,
didn't
I
make the motion.
recommended
Okay,
that I
I
would
got
make
you.
a motion. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. His motion is a
Thanks for
little
clarification,
complicated.
Ms. Randy. We need to get this thing finished out. So did you want to make a motion now, or
Yeah, I'll make a motion to suspend until restitution has been paid and then bring this back up within 90 days from now.
I'll second.
You'll have to put a time limit on it. Suspension is only up to a year.
Said 90 days,
90 days.
Okay,
to revisit it in 90 days.
okay.
So is that okay?
You can do whatever you want, you're the board. I'm just making sure you understand that you can't just do a suspension until it's paid. You're limited to a year. So if he chooses not to pay it, then we're right back here where we started. And I'm
so
just
the
making sure you're
motion
aware
was
that.
for 90 days with it coming back to the board? Can we bring it back to us?
I know. So you're giving him 90 days to make the payment, and you'll reinstate his license, is what you're saying. If he gets it paid within 90 days, all of the money?
All restitution to be paid, because if it's going after insurance, there should be no payment schedule. So all restitution should be paid within 90 days.
You can certainly do a 30-day suspension, a 90-day suspension, and there's no reason not to. They could certainly require him to make the payment. Full restitution within 90 days and a suspension until 90 days.
That would be the motion.
And if that's not met, it would come back to the board, correct?
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
Well, his license would reinstate.
So I have a motion on the floor.
That's what his license would reinstate.
But if he doesn't make the restitution within that 90 days.
If he doesn't make the restitution within the 90 days, then his license reinstates.
And that's the end.
There's no suspension. I guess that's where I'm not making
So,
it clear.
let me clarify this.
Thank you.
Let me clarify this. This matter is being, his suspended license would be reinstated, and that would be the end of this. You would have to put that it would come back to the board for further action. You can't just say, hey, it's suspended for 90 days or until
He
restitution is
said
paid.
for it to come back to the
For it to
board.
come back to the board in 90 days.
Right.
Is it viable for it to be 90 days, and if it's not paid in 90, it comes back to the board? Not that it's reinstated, it comes back to
For
the board.
further action.
I know this is getting very convoluted. What I think you could do is pay it within 90 days, or as a suspension. If he doesn't pay it within 90 days, it's an automatic termination, and it doesn't come back. It just terminates.
Okay.
If that's what I don't know what your goal would be in 90 days if he doesn't pay the money. And so maybe that's a discussion you need to have. In 90 days, what's going to be your solution? Are you going to extend, again?
Good point.
Well, I think there's a couple things going on here, and it's hard to sit here and advise. What I'm trying to help you understand is that you have two duties here. You have one duty you have a duty to the public, and you have a duty to follow all the rules. And so you have to weigh those. And when you're weighing those, where does that put you on your decision-making in this case? So are you going to keep bringing this back? As they explained, the first Wednesday of every month, they just plan on being here. So are you going to keep bringing it back, or are you going to give them closure, give this case closure? And that's kind of where I get. So I'm trying to give you that instruction.
Yeah. No, I
Figure out what you're going to do at the end of 90 days before you cut this one loose.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think that's what my intent is, to do that. By just closing it today, there's no guarantee that they're going to get paid. I'm hoping that, these discussions we're having today motivates that they're in the right path to get it paid, and not just to circumvent it and start the other company and just, let this thing tie on for 6 months or years or 3 years and they don't get paid. We'd like to follow through with it. I would certainly like to follow through with it and say that they get paid. Now that we know insurance is involved and we can ask for documentation. And again, I know we're kind of dragging this case out, but There's some content behind the case. That's the only reason that I'm recommending that we need to follow through and make sure that the restitution does get paid. And I mean, I feel comfortable that he will get paid, but that's just me personally speaking, right? Again, with the reputation that Mr. Freeman's got in town, if he chooses not to get it paid, then, that's on him. Then, he'll have to provide and explain to his clients what happened and what didn't happen. But right now, if we just terminate the license, then we're done. They have no recourse other than whatever they have. At least they have an opportunity to come back, and we can see that if it has or has not been paid, and continue monitoring his other license too. I mean, I don't know if we can do anything, but it's to try to get them paid.
So I think, I agree with you, we can do the suspension for a period of time, but I like the suggestion that we have at the end of a year, after the 6 months, it's terminated if he doesn't make it or come back to us with some type of a plan agreeable to the plaintiffs in this case. So I think the concern is that if we just do the 90
Agreed.
days, it'll
Agreed.
just go back and reinstate it.
Agreed.
So if we do a suspension for a period of time, and if not paid, termination, they have the opportunity to come back in the meantime to say what they've worked out.
So I think with what Christie said, maybe the recommendation be that 90 days, and if the restitution isn't paid in full after the 90 days, then termination of the license.
And you could do that as an automatic termination. You may want to hear from the parties, at least the defense counsel. But you could do that as an automatic termination, and then it doesn't come back. And you don't, all they have to do, all the sextons have to do is contact Jennifer, or Jennifer can contact them, say, we didn't receive anything. And then at the end of the 90 days, it would just be an automatic termination, and no one has to come back, no more hearings. The sextons still have a civil, and they know that they have a civil option in this case. They're aware of that. They do have counsel that can advise them in that area. But as far as enforcing, giving him the opportunity to pay it, I get what you're saying. But the board is just really limited in your ability to force payment.
Well, he has time within that 90-day period to come back before termination's kicked in to appeal or make a
Right, he could bring, if he's
Right.
met the requirements of whatever you set those requirements to be.
Correct.
That's always an option to come back.
All right, let me try making a motion. So make a motion for suspension for 90 days with automatic termination of the license and the restitution to be paid within that period of time.
Second.
Okay, for clarification, just for a second. Suspension for 90 days, and if the restitution is paid, there's no termination, or the way you just said it, termination is period?
If the restitution is paid, then there's no termination.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor for suspension of the permitting privileges for 90 days, upon which time restitution would be made, and if not, license would be terminated.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, everybody understand that? And I have a second to that, Mr. Bell?
Second to that.
Okay, so is everybody clear with where this shook out? Okay. Any questions? I think we've had plenty. All in favor, raise your right hand. I have 2, 3, 4. All opposed? Same sign? Okay. The motion is approved and enforced. Real close.
To make sure the sextons understand what they've decided is that he has 90 days to make full restitution. If he doesn't make full restitution, then his county license will terminate. If he does make full restitution, the suspension will lift. If he gets it done ahead of time, before the 90 days, then the suspension will lift, and he will still have his county license. Okay? So you can take it off your calendar next month, hopefully. Okay?
Okay. Any other business?
I do have something for the board.
Mr. Bell needs to leave.
He doesn't have to be here.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you.
Just so you know, another hearing has been filed with the Board of County Commissioners on, the complainants are the Moody's, No, yeah, the complainants are the Moody's, and they have filed an appeal of the decision that was made in the Levada case. So it's set for September 5th, I believe. So I'm going to need you, Mr. Lister.
What day?
I'm going to give you, I'll give you that further information, but it's the next board meeting.
I'll
And
get it. I'm gonna bring it up.
She's pulling it up now. So I just want to make sure you're aware, this is not being filed by Mr. Levada. This has been filed by the complainants.
The Moody's? Is that the last thing?
So, and their argument is, from what I can see, is not that the board didn't make the correct decision, it's just that they didn't punish them enough. So,
So it's on a Thursday.
It is on a
The day
Thursday.
after our meeting on Wednesday.
That is correct. It is an evening meeting on September 5th.
September 5th?
If you can just keep me CC'd on the email, if I can make it, I'll certainly be there.
sure, and we can make the whole board aware that everybody, so everybody can tell, I know you were there last
Yeah,
time.
anybody wants to
And,
come join the party.
And I'll be in touch with you directly, Mr. Lister.
Thank
So we
you,
can
Ms.
sit
Christie.
down and go through the case file.
Perfect.
It's the only
Can't
time I
wait.
get to try cases.
Okay, any other business? If not,